I get a call. There's an audition for Rent, this musical, Broadway, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know nothing about Broadway.
Or
Just
acting.
show up, or acting. Show up. So I showed up, hair crazy, out, no makeup, overalls. Show up at this audition on Mont Royal. I get the callbacks, and for Mimi. And everybody's like, oh, you look like Mimi. You're going to get it. This girl, I could hear the whispers and like,
Right.
she looks like Mimi. She looks like Mimi. So I was like, I don't even know who Mimi is. I have no
You
idea.
had no idea about Rent?
No idea what Rent
Oh my
was. I
gosh.
was not into Broadway, knew nothing about Broadway at the time. And so I passed on that.
Really?
I passed on that, but then got a call for Cirque du Soleil. They had a show coming out in Florida, and we want you to come. They were looking for like a hip hop R&B singer
Right.
to like do some improv over their entire like score.
Right.
I would call it a score of the show. And so I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to Florida.
Now, I need to know a little bit about this. I mean, with Ricky, I went on a tangent. I'm a Cirque fan. I talked his ear off a little bit. I need to know about this experience because if I got a call from Cirque du Soleil, I'd like pee my pants or something.
Again, it's one of those things where living in Montreal, on the music scene, I had no idea who Cirque was.
Again.
What world am I living in? This is what he said to me.
I know. And I was like,
You guys were a match made in heaven. They both didn't know.
totally oblivious, right? And so, but I knew of them, but I had no idea, like the
magnitude.
The magnitude.
I mean, for context, what year roughly would this have been?
this was
Like,
98, 99.
okay, so they were still like in their like I guess earlier years of
But it's
conception.
around the time where like O had just come out. That was their show before La Nuba.
Right.
And so I got called for La Nuba, and and one thing about me was that I was very flaky in the sense where I'd show up late for like sound checks and stuff. And I will tell you that me leaving really put like a discipline. They're like, you go to Cirque, you got to be on time.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
punching in the card every day. You're in a building. You can't just walk out of your like contracts and stuff. And so it really gave me a discipline. And
This was the show in Vegas, right?
no, this
No,
was in
this was-
Florida. It was a
okay, it was
permanent show,
permanent show in Florida.
downtown Disney.
Okay.
This beautiful, like, it looked like a tent, but it was a building. Beautiful. And so I thought they were going to send me home like 2 weeks in, because I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Like, I was like, wow, this is so different.
Imposter syndrome. We were
Yeah,
talking about
this,
that.
as well as a running theme with everyone we talk about, no matter if they're in the early years of their career, if they've been in it for 40, 50 plus years.
Right.
Everyone seems to have moments
Right.
where they're going, why me?
Right.
Why am I the one here?
I always, and I was sitting there going like, oh my gosh, they're going to send me home like 2 weeks in. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like, I don't even, I don't know, right?
Right.
And so then when we started and we premiered the show, it just kind of came together. They're like, you're the perfect fit for the show. And then when the other singer would go out, I would do an opera part for him. And it's so, I was like, I realized like my diversity, even within, again, the experiences, I'm growing and growing and
Right.
growing. And another part of me is getting this performance from it, right? Because
Right.
everything was with the hands. Usually I'm holding a mic, and then it became this singing like this, and like an actress on stage. I was performing, right? I was like, oh, okay, like I'm growing.
School.
So yeah, it was school. It was everything was school. Every single step of my career was a learning experience in the best way possible. Even that negative stuff, I'm like, yeah, you have to get burnt to learn what not to do. Right. And just to pass on that knowledge, because a lot of people don't know. I didn't have that knowledge. So it's like every single step of the way, I'm blessed because it's growth, and just to get better and stronger and keep honing my craft, so.
Now, just to touch really quickly on that like anxiety that you were having, would you say that it was more based around like questioning your own abilities, or does it come back to kind of like you said, oh, like I'm sometimes coming in late, like maybe I'm just like my work ethic isn't the best fit? Like what was causing that anxiety?
I feel like one thing about me as young Dessy is that I was always very secure in my own skin. I've always been supportive to other singers, always lifting other singers up. Or like, Coco and I would just pass the buck. So she'd kick ass. I'd be like, I'm going to kick ass now. So like it was like
Friendly competition.
And I wouldn't even say it was competition. There wasn't any envy behind that. It was just a support system. It was just like, I always felt like I needed my fellow singers like as crutches.
Right. Sure.
Right. But I was very secure in my talent. I just felt like it was such a big show, such a grandiose thing that I had never been part of. And that's where I didn't see myself fitting in that context, because I was like, it's so different. Like, it's so different. I was like, how am I going to fit in this? Like, how does my voice lend a hand to this show? Because there weren't many Black artists in the Cirque camps. And so I was like, R&B background, like, how am I going to fit visually and sound-wise in this show? It was so different musically, and I was like, but it, like, I made that score my own. So now, people, when they hear the La Nuba original soundtrack, they're like, we couldn't hear it without your voice. Like, it's you, so yeah.
I love that you said that you like lean on other women. I myself, like I was always kind of in the metal and the rock scene.
Right.
There were very few of us.
Right.
And I found what would happen, unfortunately, was that when there was another woman in a lead front kind of position, it became like a toxic competition.
Right. Yeah.
Which I never understood.
Right.
I felt like if we kind of band together, we're creating more space for one another.
And that's my point. Like, we're stronger together, right?
Yeah.
The support system, LA is a whole other beast we'll have a conversation about, but it's really cutthroat there.
Yeah.
And I feel like people compete. And I'm like, I'm not about that life. Like, I'm not about to get up on stage and just like 2 minutes of like throwing up vocally because I have to outdo that girl so I could get these gigs. I do what I do. I've always been that person where this is my sound. It's either you love it or hate it. If you like it, great. If you don't, let's keep it moving. I have no problems with that, right? So I just feel like, there are a few of my circle now and community where we really support one another and we lift each other up, because it's so hard. It's so cutthroat. It's still male dominated. It's still like, hi, look at me, like the opportunities. Ricky will get opportunities. And if I stand in for those same opportunities, it won't happen, because it's hard. It's just really, really hard. Our voices aren't heard. Even now, it's really difficult.
Yeah, because that was a mentality that I always kind of had. I think it was Tina Fey who had said the only reason that women aren't running the world is because we're too busy fighting against each other.
Right.
And I love the idea of, having these trials and errors, gaining that knowledge, and then being able to pass it down to someone else and just, like I said, make more room for all of us.
I always say, if I had like money to start my own label, I would give those young girls an opportunity to like, I'm not strictly young women, but because it was so hard for me in the industry. And the one thing I did not take is any mess. I'm really proud of myself for this, because I don't feel like I was propositioned in that way in the industry. It's, it always happens.
Yep.
But I didn't stand for any of it. I was really strong. at a young age. I was like, no, I'm determined. People saw the determination. I think they saw me as a little sister more than anything else in the industry. But all this to say, like, if I had the capability of starting a label, I would, you know, give my sisters and uplift my sisters. I have no problem with sharing the stage. We all have something different to present.
Yep.
We're not competing. Everybody is different. Everybody has their lane, and everybody has something different to say from one another. We're not the same. So it's like,
Right.
yeah, it's okay.